Welcome back to the shop, everybody. I'm talking kind of loud. I got earplugs in, and me and JC Mountain of Jar has been talking, and he wants me to make a knife for him, and I guess this is kind of an introduction to that. We've been talking on and off for, I'd say, probably 3 weeks now, and so he's decided that he wants me to make him a knife. So kind of give you the rundown of everything. Now I've ordered some, custom stuff for him, and hope he likes it. And first things first, you got the old 1095, made in America. Of course, I ordered this in bulk. It's the only way to buy it because it's cheaper than buying just a piece at a time, and you have extra if you mess one up. So this is 12 inch by 1.5 inch. This is 3/16. It's 0.187. So 250 is quarter, and 0.125 is eighth, and 1.87 is 3/16. Get a gander at that. I really like the Patriot steel. It's Fort Wayne, Indiana, packaged in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So that's pretty nice. So he decided he wanted my Carta handles, and so that's what he gets. He gets a micarta handle. So it's two-tone, green and a burgundy red color. First time I'm ever working with this. So it's 1.5 inch. Looks like 0042, so I'm not sure on the numerics of that one. I have some 1/4 inch G10 right here. This is that Tiffany color, and it looks like it's gonna be somewhere in the neighborhood of 1/4 inch. These G10 handles are hard. That feels pretty hard too. Like I said, it's just layered micarta. And Ben's JC likes the mountains. Of course, we all like mountains, But because he likes the mountains, I found something kind of special for JC. They have different of these mosaic pins. They've got Bigfoots, and they got all kinds of pretty cool stuff. See if I can find it here. See if it'll pick it up. I had trouble with this earlier. So if y'all look pretty close, that's mountains in there, trees and mountains. The other side's not as clear because they cut it and make sure it's quality before they send it out. Um, everything comes from knife kits, except for the steel. And so this is the beast that he decided on. So as y'all can tell, that's 3/16. I have an 1/8 inch here. You can tell it's a little thicker. And but that's what he wanted. That's what he's gonna get. 1/8 inch stuff, and it looks real close to same. It's the same with, you know, I order 1.5 inch stuff because I find that if I order 2-inch stuff, I kind of waste it, because most of the time any knife will fit on 1.5 inch. Now, instead of a sharpening choil, he's elected to have a bail notch put in the front here, so he can grab his bucket out of the fire with it. This one is going to be a 1/4 inch pin and a 1/4 inch pin, and the other one with the mountain in it, they didn't have 1/4 inch, so I got a 5/16. So that'll be just a little bit bigger pin, nicer pin. And of course, your back end will have a cutout. And we kind of talked about that too. And he's wanting this essentially to, you know, in a situation where if you had a stick, you could tie the stick to this thing and use the very end. You could wrap it one way around the stick and the other way around the stick, and you'd have an ability to tie it up front here, and an ability to tie it more securely around the end of the stick this way. So essentially you'd have all the way around on each side, and then you could tie it just kind of on the front, however you wanted to do that. But that's kind of what we're working on. I'm going to try not to make these, or make this, very long. Of course, I'm going to go ahead and get started on this thing. And yeah, this is going to be a pretty fun project. I hope it's going to be pretty eventful, not in a bad way, but in the way of true potential and custom knives. Just opening that corridor up. You know, a lot of people say they make custom knives. If you make a knife beforehand and try to sell that knife, that's not a custom knife. That's a knife that you have made. You know, if you let people decide what they want, how thick, whatever they want on it, from A to Z, that's a custom knife. That's what I'm going to get. It's what we're going to work on for JC mounting a jar. You know, if y'all watching this, Joe's a pretty good guy, so I'm glad to be working with him. And I'm going to go ahead and get started on this thing. All right, so a couple of days have passed since I recorded the last part of grinding that edge on this thing. So in the meantime, just to save a little bit of boringness, so what I've went ahead and done is this. Alright, so I've drilled the holes out. Of course, you know these are quarter. And this one is a 5/16. I just got done drilling it. Well, this pin right here is exactly 5/16. And if you use regular size drill bits, you know, you'll have to file a little bit out. So, of course, y'all know the mountains. Let's see, those are upside down. So, the mountains, the trees in the mountains. So this pin is exactly 5/16. So what I went ahead and did, I drilled a 5/16 hole because I don't have any other drill bit. So I went ahead and drilled it out. And I went ahead and filed it just a little bit. And that way, you know, I can slide this pin in. It's a little loose here, but by the time you get it glued in with two handles on it, it'll be just fine. So I went ahead and did that. So now this right here is a lanyard hole. So the micarta is not gonna come all the way out to the end. It'll have a little cutout for this lanyard hole. I thought about it, and I thought about making it bigger. I said no, it didn't look quite right to me, so I went ahead and redone it. But you still got plenty of hand room. That's not gonna, this little bit of a cutout is not gonna hurt anything. So me and JC was talking about this right here. Now that's not gonna be a gut hook. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. So that's not gonna be a gut hook. That's gonna be a bail hook. Like if you're cooking over a campfire, you can reach in and grab the bail of the bucket. I think that's what they call it. That's what I've always called it. But yeah, you can come in there and get it. I had my 5-gallon bucket in here hanging on this thing, and it hangs on it quite well. So I've added a little jimping right here too. So that way if you have, you can put your bail back here and just take it in and set it down, and it'll be kind of a quicker out instead of trying to get it out of this hook. I think that's a pretty rad looking knife, the way that thing is profiled out. You know, the camera didn't do this thing justice. Of course, we got the old Spyderco. It's got some new screws in there. I moved the screws down. I don't know if y'all can tell, them are purple. I like purple. I like orange, and I like purple. That purple that's in these, man, it sets that little knife off. So this is a tenacious. Y'all know what that is. So this is I mean, it's not much more than a tenacious. It's maybe a couple inches, but that thing's gonna be a horse. 3/16 thick. Oh, I failed. But that thing's gonna be real nice. So the next thing that I've really got to work on is the edge. And so we're gonna do a Scandi grind on this thing, and I'm pretty sure y'all don't want to sit and watch a whole lot of that, just because it's kind of boring for me, but I think it'll be just fine. And then it'll be cleaning up this edge right here, smoothing it out. Of course, you know, you'll kind of see that thing's kind of smooth anyway, so we're gonna see that little 1x30 belt grinder right there does a pretty good job. But we're gonna see what we can come up with on this thing, and I think that's about it for right now. All right, so to get this right here, I use this right here. That's a 5/32 chainsaw file, 4.0 millimeter. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's 5/32 because that's I had a chainsaw one time, and that's what I used to sharpen the blades with on that thing. But I took that thing, put it in here, and I just went to town filing on that thing. And these jimps after that, of course, if I need it, I can't find it. I took this little piece of angle iron. You can kind of see where I've been scratching on that thing with the file. Took it, squatted it up with the back side of that hole, clamped it down, and started filing again. And that's what gave me the space between it. But other than, I think that's it. Okay. All right, you guys, welcome back. Well, not welcome back, but thanks for watching. So this steel right here is 3/16 thick, and so what I'm going to do is I think I'm pretty close to starting the cutting edge on this thing, the bevel on this thing. And so what I'm going to do is I take me a Sharpie and I color on this thing. And so I got this right here. You know, one side is shiny, but I'll go ahead and just make that kind of like a dark color. And so what happens is y'all can see that line right there. That gives me a middle line. So if you use a 3/16 drill bit with 3/16 inch material, so I flipped it twice. So I done it once, one side, or a couple of times on one side and a couple of times on the other side. And that kind of give me a starting point. And so it's pretty well even all the way across through there. And that just gives me something to shoot for in the middle. Because there is going to be quite a bit of material that needs to come off of this thing. And you know, it's not necessarily one side or the other side, because it'll be right down the middle, pretty close. And that way, as you go, you can kind of determine how far you need to take one side or the other side. I got so much stuff in here. It's kind of crazy. So what I've got here, well, let's see if we can go back a little bit further. So now what we got here is I'm gonna take and with my belt grinder here, so I'm gonna take and change the belt out. And on these belts, you can tell it's 80 grit right here. They're just a standard oxided sanding belt from Harbor Freight. There's really no, you know, what's the best out there. It just is what it is at this point. There is some good ones out there, but you know, that's just one of those things that they're all going to be about the same. And this thing, this belt right here has got some miles on it. Y'all can kind of tell one from the other here. It's the same belt. It's just got a bunch more miles on it. I'll probably go through a couple of these. They're pretty cheap and readily available. I always like to cut that thing on and make sure that it's going to be running right, because there ain't nothing worse than starting on something and you had to take it all the way back apart again. So the way my jig works, let me see if I can find it. Here it is. So the way my jig works, what I've made for that, is I've got a piece of 1/8 inch angle iron welded, or not welded, with some holes drilled in it. First one I ever made, I bolted right to this thing and done it right here. That could work. I mean, it works, but I'm just going to go ahead and clamp it. It's a little bit easier on there. And for this one, you know, you got your table that moves. I've got the bolt removed for the back to make sure, you know, if you want to, you can bring it back level and it won't be pitched back a little bit. With these bushcraft knives, or this style of knife right here, I generally tend to pitch them back. And with these bolts in here, we'll give it a little more pitch backwards, and that way it'll make that scandy ground on here pretty easy. And so yeah, that's kind of what I do for that. And we'll get started here. All right. So here is the knife with the bevel on it. This is not the finished product, of course. I've done a little bit of sanding just to make it easier. Of course, the black marks is from marking out the handle scales. This is kind of a better look at this bail hook. I will get in there and sand on that a little bit more. You know, I drilled that many holes in there to make it lighter in the back. Of course, by the time I put the handle scales on there, that'll probably be a little more back heavy. But that is kind of center of the blade, just to kind of, it is, you know, kind of tilted back, so There's not really much more I can do. I'm afraid to drill too many more holes and make it a little weak. But I drill these holes for epoxy to seep through. Now this one here will be, then that one will be for pins. That one will be for pins. And I've got this drawn out to cut out, and we'll see how that works out. Alright guys, well, here is mounting a jar knife. I've already done one side of this thing, and if you look, I'm chamfering, I think that's how you say that, these holes, because they've got a pretty good burr on them. If you can see this one side, it's pretty smooth. Won't be too hard to finish smoothing out. And the reason I make these many holes in here is for the glue to go through the other side and hopefully make a good strong connection. This back hole, it's the first time I've ever made a hole like that in a knife, and but I think it turned out pretty good. I got a lot of tool marks on that thing that I'm gonna have to address, but I've done some sanding on this thing. I've got a little bit more to go. I think it looks pretty good. There's a bail hook. Now I'm talking about a bucket bail or a camping bail. That's not a good hook. That's for hooking things over a campfire, and so that's kind of what he wanted to have put in and made. I'm going to go ahead and do this side. And that's easy as that. Now you can see there's no real burrs hanging on this thing. Whereas before they had a pretty decent little burr on them, and kind of taking care of that. So if I was sanding on these things and you get off a little bit and you want to just focus on that hole, what happens is you wind up grinding around that hole. By the time you get the top part of that level, you'll have a low side on this side and a low side on this side. So rounding these holes out a little bit, helping that process just to keep everything flat and level and even, and that way you don't tear your sandpaper up either. I've spent a little bit of time sanding on this thing, but I think it's coming along pretty good. Now I'm going to go ahead and get ready and heat treat this thing. That way I can get it stabbed in the oven and get it tempered today. So hopefully we'll be on the finishing up end of this thing maybe sometime this evening. By then this thing will be heat treated, tough as nails. I do have a little bit of grinding left on this, just because it's you have to leave a little thickness, so if you don't, the forge will burn the tip up, burn the blade. You really don't want that to happen. This is going to be a pretty nice knife. Like I said, I've got quite a bit of sanding to do to get it back to this shiny, but I think it'll be okay. I think it'll look pretty good. All right. Got you guys in this kind of a weird angle, but it is raining outside. Ignore the mess in the background. Getting this knife up to temperature. I'm also heating my oil. See, that's pretty hot. I like to do this process right here because it's done very well for me. I like to keep the forge hot. I'll let this thing cool down where it's not red anymore. That is coming down in a room temperature, so still kind of red. Now you can see the change in color in this knife. See that? So that's number one. So it's not red anymore. Goes right back into the forge. Heating this oil up because it's set out here outside. It got down pretty cold last night, not really cold, so just making sure the temperature of the oil is up. I say usually around 100, somewhere around 100. Tell us the oil is getting hot. I can smell it. Not really burning it, but it's starting to get I use canola oil, so I'm starting to get one of those. Your fryer is getting hot, kind of smells. two of these cycles. Waiting for the tip to get red because I normally like to do that last so I can pull it out. She's hot again. So I normally get two of these in. And y'all can kind of guess what temperature is that? I don't know. Probably 1500 degrees, 14, 15. It's not 16 yet. Those little bubbles in this metal hasn't started coming up yet. So you can kind of see y'all can see the color of that changing now. Get it over in the dark, it's still just a little bit red. I can see it. So now, is knife still magnetic? It is. So, alright, there's no red. So you can see how it sticks metal. Now what I'm going to do is try to include the back part of this knife with the next one, and we will go ahead and harden this knife. I'll dip it in this canola oil and then it'll be hard as a rock. Got to put this in the oven after this for, I'm going to do 2 hours at 400 degrees one time, 2 hours at 400 degrees the next time. So it's 2 cycles at 400 degrees. I was going to do 250 because this is 3/16. I don't think it's really going to matter. Keep my magnet handy. don't have very long to tinker with this thing. Once it gets up to temperature to harden, see what y'all can see. Yeah. Now, I think it was that dog food box I was sitting on. Thought something exploded. Alright. Alright, so we just got that out of the forge. With my experience, this thing is still raging hot. So I'm just using an old pair of channel locks. They ain't no good for nothing except for forge work now. So I just use an old dirty rag because you're just wiping vegetable oil off now. That thing is hot. Y'all can kind of see the color that that thing took on now. So it got hot. I tempered it. Got them little metal flakes. That's carbon. So you add carbon to carbon steel. That's what makes it hard. So a little bit of a warp to it, but that's all right. As you go to beating and banging on it now, it'll break. It'll bust. That's how I know. But this thing, man, this thing is going to turn out nice. It's going to turn out nice. So now that it has hardened, I have to temper it. So I'm gonna go do that. But I put it in a jig just like this. So what I've done, sorry, it's dirty. So what I've done is I've just taken some 1/8 inch, 1 by 1, drilled a couple of holes, put some 1/4 inch bolts in it. And what happens is it holds a knife in there just like that. So that way, I always usually put it in spine first, because that's just a typical way that I like to try to get these straight. And so I'll take a crescent wrench. Usually I get these kindly tight by hand, and they'll tighten normally on their own. Okay, so now my theory behind this, and this has worked generally 99% of the time. I don't get many warps, but I kind of figured this one would, just because it's a little thicker, and just it happens. So what I've done is, my theory behind this is, you get this gap gone, and it's dead even. In theory, should be dead even, because I clamped these two pieces together, drilled a hole. The hole is not very big. I mean, it's 1/4 inch hardware. This gives it the best chance it has of being tempering straight. Usually you put this in the oven 400 degrees. I may go 450, just for the sake of it. But this thing, usually I put this on here and it tempers straight as an arrow, usually, most of the time. And even if there is a little bow, I can get it out. So yeah, I'm gonna go take and stick this thing in the oven, and we'll come back. All right, you guys, well, here's another little bit of an update on the mounting the jar knife. Had to change jackets. Went outside, man, it was raining cats and dogs out there, and got wet, soaking wet. But it's the same day, and I have went ahead, heat treated in the forge, and I have went ahead and ground this thing down. What you're seeing on there is some WD-40, just to keep it from rusting. I tend to do that for a couple of reasons. All the heat makes this kind of dry, and I use water to cool it down between thermal cycles in the oven. And whenever I go ahead and finish that bevel off, I go ahead and keep the whole thing cool. I dip it in water, just to keep it in a good place. You know, as far as heat wise, because I don't want to get it too hot again and run the temper on the edge. And so I'll do a stripe, dip it, do a stripe, dip it, and that way it's all, you know, there's no other heat to it. That's just the way it is. It's the way it's gonna be. And but yeah, this thing turned out way nice, way nice. Let's see. Probably wipe a little bit of this WD-40 off now. I'll show you guys a little bit of this, a few signs of this heat treat and how well it went. So there are a few signs that I look for, and one of them, let's see, I don't know if y'all can pick any of this stuff up without light, but it has a straw looking color to it. Right there's maybe some of it, but it takes on a straw looking color. And man, it just turns out nice, especially right there on that tip. I don't know if y'all can catch the color on that thing or not. See, right there's a little bit of it. But man, this thing turned out very nice. It's straight. It looks really nice that it's pretty uniform. And I've taken it down to where I'm starting to get a burr on it with the grinder there. So it won't be too hard to sharpen, I don't think. So the only other thing that I have to do, I'm not going to glue tonight handles on. I've got something kind of special coming up that I'm going to have done with this thing. And so I'm going to have my name, my company name etched in this thing. And hopefully it'll be pretty nice. Should be. But I'm going to go ahead and flat sand this thing. And that way, whenever I can take this thing and have that etching done, it won't be that big of a deal. All this stuff right here will be pretty well done, and I won't have to try to do it all at one time again. So what I'm going to do, let's see. Get my clamp back over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to sand this thing down as far as I can go, and I'll turn you guys around. So now that y'all are kind of over here out of my way, I'm going to start with a sheet of 120. So now, this is kind of the part that really kind of stinks doing. I ain't gonna lie. There is some parts that I don't really like, and this is one of them. It's nothing bad. It's just there's a whole lot of sanding involved with this thing, and I mean, it just is what it is. It's got to be done. Now, I'm not really mad, and I'm not really, my feelings aren't hurt or nothing. But this part of this it's tough. I usually start out with half sheets. And this 120, so it's so I'm gonna put you on time lapse for a little while. Sand. We'll come back. Well, that's kind of the end of that video. So I've lost some footage. I don't know if I've been editing on my phone, so I don't know what happened. It should have been on there, but it wasn't. So I don't know. So this is several days later, and I'm getting to right toward the end of this video, trying to put it together, and I realized some of my footage is gone. But I'm going to try to include some pictures of the finished product and everything. And so this has been a fun adventure with Joe, JC, Mountain of Jar. Had a pretty good time with him. Actually started on another adventure. I dropped it, but that's that'll be the end of this, and hopefully I can get some more stuff rolling and kind of make everything come together, and hopefully it'll be good, and we'll see what the next adventure brings us. God bless. Live life outdoors.